From the rolling mountains to the flatlands, we sing. No one can take our rights. Our Second Amendment will defend our land. With every bullet we stand. We were born in the USA, land of the free, with guns in our hands. We'll forever be Southern blood runs deep through our veins. We'll stand tall for America till the end of our days.
Well, hey there, I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Hope you're doing well this evening. Hope everybody had a great holiday and is having a wonderful week as we wander through this lull in between Christmas and New Year's and sort of stagger around to figure out what's next. First off, tonight, I've got to sort of make a mea culpa, fall on my sword a little bit, if you will, although not falling on my sword totally, just going to make some observations, and I was wrong about a couple things. Now, I made a video right before Christmas talking about the brown culture, talking about basically, hey kids, how did this happen? How was this guy able to scope out the university for 2 weeks and no one noticed him? Nobody called him into campus PD. And there had been something said in one of the news conferences by one of the Brown administration stating that, well, nobody likes when policing is done to their community, or nobody likes when policing is done to them. And I sat there and I said, whoa, nobody, when policing is done to them? And I addressed out in a video. I put it up. It's about a 17-minute video. Didn't do it live stream, just did a little video on demand on the channels. Fortunately, it didn't get too many hits. If you want to, you go back and look at it after this. And it was a call to students, parents, and friends of students, people who lived on the campus, to sort of, well, I guess you could kind of say, be more vigilant. If you see something, say something. Go out there and take a look and see what you see, because I said maybe, okay, campus security or campus cops, there may be 2, maybe 3 officers max per shift. That's 2 or 3 sets of eyes. That the students walk to and from these buildings every day, and this weird vehicle was around there for several days, had been reported by a couple of people having seen it repeatedly, but no one had reported to the cops. And maybe if someone had picked up a phone, one of these little things we carry around strapped to our ass every day, maybe if someone had done something, seen something, said something, maybe this shooting could have been prevented. And I get the fact that, nobody likes when policing is done to their community. But we need to get out of that mentality, because that mentality may have led to the death of 2 of their classmates, plus the professor at Harvard. And how preventable this was, I just thought it was a kick in the teeth, if you think about it. Well, I was wrong. Yeah, apparently people did report it. Apparently people did do the right thing. Apparently people said, yeah, there's something weird going on. And now the more that we find out what's going on with this, the more it really is a huge, huge black eye for Brown University. Well, I don't think we should call them Brown Eye University yet, but we could in a while. My point here is, they went out and their police chief apparently was running quite a mess agency. Apparently, a custodian who saw the guy repeatedly reported him to someone who he believed to be campus security as a private third-party security contractor. But they say, yes, they got a report, and they remember the report, but the security is not their job, and they didn't call anybody. folks, I get the fact and I understand the fact that some campus police agencies, the people working there, they do it because they enjoy the laid back environment. They're not out there dealing with, violent armed robbers. They're not having to deal with the homeless drunk with a razor blade or a machete at the convenience store tonight. No. Apparently, there was such a toxic culture and train wreck of a police department running the Brown PD that nobody did anything about the reports. Basically, nobody bothered to follow up much on it, or at least that's what we're getting now. And I'm going to cover a few of these things tonight because I really think that it's appropriate, in a way, to look back and say, okay, what happened? What went wrong? And when I'm trying to find out what went wrong, it's really interesting because, number one, we've got the Department of Education, who is now going to be investigating all the failures on behalf of Brown University. Imagine that. A woke university full of failing policies. Yeah, full of failures. And now we have Brown themselves placing their VP for public safety, which is their campus police chief, Rodney Chapman. He was placed on leave of absence on December 22nd. It didn't come out till after the video was published. And I mean, I figured, okay, they had sort of been doing their job and no one reported anything to them because, no one likes to talk to the popos. Yeah. And I tried to point out that, being on the gun-free campus leaves you weak enough. At least be aware of stuff when you see something suspicious, shed it out. Well, little did we dream that we would find out some of this stuff. Here you go. This is from Jesse Waters.
Events and how to prepare for them. We don't do that at the college level.
And it looks like they just put one of their heads of building management on, and guys will put up the screen. The vice president for public safety and emergency management has been put on administrative leave effectively. Chad, that seems like a little CYA, a little late in the game for that, does it not?
Well, Laura, we're about a week too late for something like this to take place. Like we said, we have dead students. We have a university that's more concerned about putting you in your safe place so your feelings don't get hurt than we do about the safety and security of college students. This has got to change. I've said it time and time again. We do an excellent job for the most part of training elementary, middle, and high school students and staff on how to respond to these types of events and how to prepare for them. We don't do that at the college level.
And it looks like they just put
This is their campus police chief on the far right. That's again that Rodney Chapman. He's the VP of safety and campus police chief. Yeah. Now, I've looked him over and he's got rather interesting, sketchy history. He was, prior to this, he was at a college in Utah where he had a few minor issues and glitches there. Didn't really work out, so to speak. And Brown hired him. Yeah, because, Brown did it for them. That was, their big, addition. It comes out now, again, after all this is said and done, we can read some of these things. And this comes out on behalf of the custodian from Brown. I'm posting this on behalf of the custodian who was notified of the shooter casing the building for weeks before the incident. The shooter casing the building. He doesn't use social media, but I wanted to clarify a few details people have been sharing. The custodian's name is Derek. He works for ERC, which is a building that is directly connected to Barris and Holly, where the shooting took place. He noticed the shooter in late November, early December. He did attempt to warn campus security about a suspicious person, but those reports were not followed through with on their end. His last attempt to warn security was during an event being held inside the building, but was told that he was only there to patrol the event, not the building itself. So the person he talked to was only there for the event, not there for anything else. He called in a tip to police late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and when the tip line was given to the public, he met with ATF and a Providence police detective in person on 12/15 to give more details 2 days after the shooting. In his words, the tragedy wasn't prevented as it should have been. He's still in shock that something like this could happen to the Brown community. He wants to remind everyone that always trust your gut, never be afraid to speak up if you feel something off. The post isn't meant for praise, but to clear up any confusion people may have about Derek, according to the affidavit. Yeah. I've researched the guy. The custodian has been there 15 years. The custodian saw someone, states, pacing the hallways, looking into classrooms. Looked into the classroom where it happened, getting the lay of the land, planning his adventure. Folks, the custodian describes the building as being wide open and a free-for-all for a long time. The custodian says, yeah, they think there's a guy living in the basement. Turns out he was right. So, yeah. As Mary says, okay, comment, like, and share. You'll help the channel grow. Subscribe, follow, get notified. New streams come out. Yep, Mary, always nice to see you here. Hope you're doing wonderfully tonight. Hope you're feeling a little bit better. Folks, the custodian saw him. The custodian reported him to somebody who was working security, but they were there for security for a specific event, not in general, so they never followed up. Campus police, apparently, well, they didn't do much to patrol the area or do much to keep check on the area, so that didn't do them any good. Yeah. This is just a mess. Folks, it is a really, really bad day. Because, yeah, I think we'll learn a lot coming out of this investigation that the Department of Education is doing. And so, from that standpoint, it's going to be fun to see how this plays out. Because you can't let this go on. Oh, congratulations on going home tomorrow. Yeah, for those of y'all who don't know, Miss Mary has been in the hospital for a little while. And I think Mel probably may have taken the night off. We had talked about going out for dinner, but then we didn't, so perhaps she didn't even feel up to staying awake for the stream tonight. Not sure. But yeah, so what I had said about it, telling everybody, oh, if you see something, say something, and everything else, yeah. Well, they did. Unfortunately, the adult did no good. Looking back on the police chief, well, in October, 2 local police units, the Brown University Patrol Persons Association and the University Police Sergeants Union, both voted no confidence in Brown. The former expressing deep concern among the membership regarding the direction and leadership of the Department of Public Safety. So one was, I think, August. There's another one held in October. So you've got your patrol officers and your security officers unions having votes about no confidence in the chief, and then this happens. Folks, does anyone think anyone should have looked into the said chief beforehand? Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wonder here. And just to let you know that, yes, we're still having a few laughs here, and it's not going to be all heavy all the time. If you remember that wonderful story, where little Ralphie wanted to get his Red Ryder BB gun, well, he finally did, and it was at that moment that Ralphie decided he wasn't going to be a Democrat. Good call, Ralphie. All righty. But yeah, folks, you just have to wonder how far this goes when you have literally students who have lost their life. Because why? Well, we'll just say that things have gotten kind of ugly. And to go a little bit deeper here, we've got this article, which I thought was great. It's a Post article, and we'll pull it up here. This in some ways, is a microcosm for us. It is something that is just absolutely, hilarious. How Brown University's leftist lapses set innocents up for death. This week, Brown University scrambled to shield itself from blame in the aftermath of the deadly December 13th campus shooting, placing the head of public safety on administrative leave. The facts are undeniable and damning. That Saturday at 4:03, a gunman wearing a partial face mask walked into the Barris and Holly Engineering Building on the Brown campus during final study sessions. He entered room 166 and fired approximately 40 rounds, murdering two students, 19-year-old Ella Cook and Mohammed Aziz Yurmazov, 18. No others were shot, or 9 others shot, 7 critically wounded. The shooter then calmly walked out, exited to a public street, and vanished into the crowd like a ghost. Well, we look here at how this was played out, and it's really fun. Here's the first real hard truth. The building had only 2 exterior cameras. Room 166 had 0 cameras. Same with the building's hallways and exits. No camera was there to capture the shooter coming, entering, or going. No camera caught his face head on. Now consider this. Brown's president has lived since 2012 in the official presidential residence, which has dozens of exterior security cameras. This is not an accident, it's a statement of priorities. For comparison, the 400,000 square foot Walmart store typically has about 300 cameras to protect shampoos, razors, and laundry soap. Brown University, an Ivy League college with an $8 billion endowment, operates 1,200 cameras across 146 acres. That means your average Walmart has 4 times the camera density trained on its toothpaste that Brown had for their students. Wow, that's an issue. Now, cameras don't stop violence when it happens. They stop the next act of violence because shooters aren't ghosts. Somebody knows them, someone recognizes them. Brown's leadership made 4 unforgivable decisions that made this horror exponentially worse. First, they did not circulate any photos of the shooter for 48 hours. Second, they failed to send any emergency to alert for roughly 20 minutes after the shooting. Third, they did not immediately activate campus sirens, and there may be some issues with the campus sirens. We can talk about that here in a minute. Someone remind me in the chat about sirens. Oh, I see Mel is awake tonight. Welcome aboard, ma'am. Good to see you here. Always like to see our most favorite mouse here in the chat. Fourth and most damning, they chose not to integrate their campus camera system with Providence PD's Real-Time Crime Center, a powerful crime-fighting tool for modern law enforcement. So what are we figuring out here? It's created what professionals call identity convergence, a single operational brain pulling in city traffic cameras, license plate readers, transit feeds, private sector video, all together. How did this guy just walk in, fire 40 rounds, and nothing? Well, were they protecting the shooter? Mary, good question. I'll come back on that. I don't think that they were deliberately protecting the shooter. My hypothesis is now, and again, this is a Sully guess, but I think it's going to be found that Brown University and Brown campus as a whole, we go big for this one, the university and the university administration as a whole have a very dim view of those kind of popo peeps. The popo peeps, the boys in blue, the donut munchers. Well, what happens if you have those boys in blue or those donut munchers, so to speak, and they are the enemy, or viewed as the enemy by administration? Because nobody likes when policing is done to their community. So at one point, they're hiring campus police, but I'm almost willing to bet they're also treating them like second-class citizens and telling them, don't do anything. Look, you're a necessary evil. We've got to have you. Kind of like, well, so we say the cops in California during the riots. Yeah. Oh, no. We have police departments. They're just watching things happen. There's a reason why, the BLM riots were allowed to go on and cause how many millions and billions of dollars in damage? Because the cops were handcuffed in certain states. There's a reason, not to go too far out, but there's a reason why thousands and millions and now billions of dollars was able to go wandering out of Minnesota. Did no one know? Or did they know and were they shut up? Well, I'm pretty sure that if they had actually gone out and done some police work and some proactive policing, I guess people would still be alive. That's pretty much what the Department of Education is coming out with right now. If you're not familiar, the Department of Education is largely empowered by a law, a federal law, known as the Clery Act. Now, the Clery Act was passed in the aftermath of the death of Jeannie Clery, I believe, in West Virginia. Basically, some of it is reporting requirements as far as they have to document their crimes on campus. But some of it is also having a functional security, public safety presence, or whatever you want to call for your campus. I don't think Brown did. I think they're pretty much, they've got the cops so castrated that, nothing good's going to happen. So they're being investigated now. They've got their police chiefs been put on leave, and really interesting to note, and this is a big, if the police chief of Brown is put on leave, I've worked around public safety for years. If your fire chief is put on leave because of whatever he did, didn't do, or whatever, assistant chief or deputy chief takes over. If your police chief is put on leave, you've got an assistant chief or a deputy chief or an associate chief or a so-and-so takes over, a master, whatever, captain. Yeah. In EMS, when the director is put out on leave, the deputy director gets pulled in, along with the senior captain who's over training in clinical quality, and they meet with county administration, and there's a succession plan. When Brown put their police chief on leave, they brought in a gentleman by the name of, I've got it here, retired Providence Police Chief Hugh Clements Jr. to come and fill in. They brought in an outsider. What does that say about culture in that agency, in that department? Yeah. Chief's going out on leave. We're not pulling anyone from internal to cover that agency. We're bringing a retired chief from another department in to run the show. If that's not the biggest screeching vote of no confidence in that entire upper administration of the Brown campus cops, what is? Folks, I'm just calling this like I see it. It goes through here. Let's see. Brown rejected the system. The leader shows blindness. Had Brown opted in, investigators would not have been reviewing footage of the shooter hours later as if it was 1995. They would have had immediate image extraction, rapid multi-agency analytics. They could have put out an instant be on the lookout for notice and public recognition within minutes. Because in this case, modern video systems would have made a difference. If the experts had been able to perform the gait analysis or any of these other tools, they might have been able to figure it out sooner. Now, they're talking about all this in the aftermath, but think about this. The shooter was previously in the building. The shooter previously walked in and out of the campus building looking in classroom windows. The custodian reported this. You know what? If I'm the family of any of these students who was injured in this, or even any of the students who witnessed it, who are now going through a rough time, and there's no doubt many of them are, I've got to wonder, am I sending my kid back there? I mean, y'all can tell me in the chat, if this was what the campus level protection, safety, security was, would you send your kids back to this college? The answer is, for me, that's got to be a no, dog. Absolutely no way. And the custodian saw the shooter casing the building more than a dozen times prior to the attack. According to him, the shooter walked with a very distinctive limp. Yeah. Could they not have gone and checked him out? Done something? Yeah. Then there's the drone, or rather the absence of one. It took 3 minutes for the police to arrive at the building. But a first responder drone could have been airborne under 90 seconds, tracking the shooter live, confirming his direction of travel. Yeah, Brown had none. 2 days later, the same killer had driven 75 miles to Brookline, Mass., where he murdered MIT professor Nuno Lorio at his home. Now, that's tragic, but we look at Lorio is dead because the shooter remained unidentified and free to move with impunity. Brown could have changed that, and it was not about money, it's about mindset. For years, Brown has embraced an anti-surveillance, anti-evidence, privacy-first culture, and I'm big on privacy first to a point. Inside the buildings, we have Michael Greco, an 18-year veteran of Brown PD, turned whistleblower, says the security program under now suspended Chief Chapman was called the Queen's Army, a system built around so-called perception-sensitive enforcement. Whatever that means, it did not mean protecting students. That cost of that mindset is now measured in body count. Yeah. And Brown University failed to identify a masked, limping shooter in real time. It didn't just miss a suspect in their murders, it allowed the death of another man 75 miles away. That's got to say something to us, folks. I don't want to live in a surveillance state. There's all the talk right now about these days about flock cameras. If you're not familiar, you can find them. And I think there needs to be a happy medium. If you've got a campus, a college campus, which is college campuses have been pretty good targets, a high school, a middle school, they've all been pretty well targeted. You've got to start thinking about, what are we doing? They go to all the expense, and I'm pretty sure if you look at the campus police budget for Brown, it's pretty ugly. They spend all kinds of money, but then at the same time, they castrate their officers and tell them, don't you do any enforcement or anything, because nobody likes when policing is done to them. Yeah. This Brown police chief, really interesting. Another article from the Post. Police Chief Rodney Chapman, a progressive, toxic, teddy bear hugging chief running a shit show department, is being criticized for the lax security measures and lack of surveillance that allowed Claudio Neves Valente to gun down 2 students and walk away with impunity. Chapman, Brown's vice president for public safety and emergency management, has come under fire. Let's see. The career campus cop has been the subject of 2 no confidence votes since arriving in 2021, with these measures expressing deep concern about Chapman's ability to lead the Brown PD. The statement cited a climate of fear and possibly retaliation, all-time low morale, as key features of his department. Now, in that last video, in that little 17-minute special, I talked to, the students, and I said, guys, you may not like the Campus 5 you may not like the campus cops, that's fine. But, they're also the first line of defense to protect you from bad guys coming on your campus. Yeah. Well, maybe we know why there was not a lot of love for the police department. In January 2025, he faced allegations from one departing officer who claimed the workplace was a toxic, vindictive shit show, the Brown Daily Herald reported. That unidentified employee also claimed to be the subject of workplace sexual harassment. Chapman, who once posed for a photo with a stuffed teddy bear, curates a lefty persona to publicly keep in step with the woke perspective of his Ivy League employer. The chief strangely took to his barely used LinkedIn to celebrate things such as International Women's Day, posting that he was happy to proudly celebrate the incredible women of Brown Department of Public Safety. Good for you, Chief. The chief strangely took to, another LinkedIn post. He suggested campus police departments not post photos of themselves with firearms or guns performing tactical maneuvers because it can make the student population anxious. Okay. Yeah. It makes the student population anxious. I get that. When he was hired, he was billed as a panacea for Brown's need for progressive security needs. And with university president Christina Paxson crowing, he has the right skills, values, and experiences. Just before Brown, he was over at the University of Utah, where he served only 1 year that was marked by controversy. Some of it was on him, some of it was, a problem on that one. Chapman sued the university, claiming they tried to push him out, claiming that it was because he was drawing attention to safety problems. That lawsuit got tossed in 2023. Security experts believe cameras could have been a strong deterrent against someone who scoped out the camera, as did Valente. Other measures could have also made a difference. Yeah. If the shooter was lurking around, casing for days in advance, that's why you have patrol officers, especially on a large college campus. He's a career campus cop who got a start at University of Cincinnati, served as executive director of safety at University of Dayton. Yeah. You just gotta wonder. And you made the comment there, and I love it because don't like policing. I get, and I said in that video, look, no one likes when the campus cops break up your parties. But no one likes when someone wakes up with alcohol intoxication and doesn't wake up. So, yeah. Yeah. And again, especially we have this great gun-free zone, rely on the police to protect you. Give up your rights to carry. You're at Brown University. We don't need you carrying guns here. No. You're not allowed to. Put your safety, put your protection, put the faith for that, and responsibility for that in these folks' hands over here. We saw how that worked out. We really, really did. But, somebody's got to be there. Someone's got to be able to do this stuff. And, if you have a kid going away to college, there's the Clary Act, and you can look up Clary reporting. And Clary, every university who receives federal money is required to publish a Clary report every year. So you can look up some of this stuff and get some ideas about what's going on, because if you're sending your kids away and you're paying all this money, how about we make sure that they're going to be safe when we send them away? Am I the only one who sees that one? Yeah. I don't know. It frustrates me because I can tell from the flavor of that article and all the articles I've read they didn't really think it would ever happen to them. Campus cops can be valuable. Not these campus cops, or at least not under this leadership. And the officers, the men and women on the campus PD, may be amazing. But under this leadership, they've been so desperately castrated that they're useless to society. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're finding out now as we go into this investigation by the Department of Education into Brown University. So maybe it wasn't the kids not saying anything. Maybe it was they said something and the cops didn't bother to do any investigation or community policing or anything else. Couldn't do anything proactive because no one likes when policing is done to their community. Come on. Now, to go to what I think is the furthest away from the Brown community policing mess, I have this video. Now, this gentleman is apparently a hard-working logger type dude, and I got this shared to me by my dear friend Carrie over at Stilettos and Shotguns, and I thought this was kind of funny. Check this out. Would you believe some poor fool tried to rob this man's truck? Let's see how this works out. Yeah, the moral of the story, don't try to steal a redneck's truck.
This boy just tried to steal my 1-ton right here. Out here removing trees, working hard. Had my guy try to come get my saw, and he came out and said my truck was gone.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens if you try to steal a redneck's truck. Didn't work out too well for him. Looks like he not only ran out of his sneakers, but he may have dropped his pants on the way. Yeah, that's okay. He's all tied up. Don't rob a redneck, folks. Doesn't work out real well for you. Actually, the fact this guy's alive and kicking to tell about it, yeah, it's going to be, he got lucky.
So boy hopped in my truck and tried to steal it. You picked the wrong one today, boys, didn't you?
Yes, sir, he did. That didn't work out too well for him. You know, you just have to wonder here. Let's see here. Trying to see. Had one more I thought clipped in here for us about Brown University. I thought it was kind of funny because it's just so ridiculous that what's going on. Yeah. Alrighty, well, I guess I don't. Let's dig in a little bit, and I'm going to touch on something as a follow-up to something in Minnesota. Now, if you remember, Minnesota had a couple of politically motivated shootings. Yeah. Don't mess with a Bubba's truck. Exactly. Yeah, don't mess with his truck. Don't mess with his dog. Yeah. Not going to work out real well for you. And I love people who say, well, you know, if you shoot someone over your dog, that means you value the dog's life more than you do the humans. Well, yeah, what's your point? I do, so I'll admit that. I know Mel will admit that too, so. If you think back to Minnesota, a while back, there was a shooting event, and a lot of people were wondering who could have possibly done this or been involved in it. It was the shooting of Melissa Hortman. Now, Melissa Hortman was a Democrat. She had just voted against a big Medicare plan that would allow illegals to have health care, or undocumented visitors to have health care. Now, with all the Medicare and Medicaid scam money coming out of Minnesota, do you wonder who it was who might have been involved? Here's Melissa Hortman shortly before she was killed. And again, it was her, her husband, everyone else. They even tried to get the dog.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and I'm We worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
DFL Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman emotional following the House's adjournment from a special session Monday. Hortman was the lone DFL lawmaker to cast a vote to cut Minnesota Care access for undocumented immigrants. It's a move she made with a heavy heart.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill was deeply unpopular with members of the DFL caucus. Members have repeatedly expressed frustration that the bill was part of a compromise, one that would ensure the necessary GOP votes to pass the rest of the state budget.
We are tremendously disappointed and gut-wrenched at this decision, at this compromise that compromises our communities that are most vulnerable.
Hortman knows she let down her own caucus members with the vote.
They're right to be mad at me. I think some of them are pretty angry. I think that their job was to make folks who voted for that bill feel like crap, and I think that they succeeded.
Over in the Senate, a similar situation unfolded. Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy forced to vote for a bill she too disagreed with to uphold the integrity of their compromise.
This one hurt. This one is a wound because of its reason. My colleagues across the aisle set this as their number one priority.
Asked whether the move would drive a wedge between her and the rest of her caucus, her DFL colleague, Senator John Marty, quickly stepped to her defense.
As a member of the caucus, yes, sir, she clearly was fighting against it every step of the way. In the negotiations, if we wanted a budget, we had to agree to that. She agreed to put up one vote for us because of that.
Reporting in St. Paul, I'm Quinn Gorham.
Now, in light of everything we're hearing about Minnesota right now, does it make you wonder which side of the aisle, could have been a little bit upset at Miss Melissa? This was a multi-billion-dollar industry in Minnesota, medical fraud. Melissa Hortman is the only Democrat, voted against it. She killed the bill. She and her husband were murdered shortly after that vote. Her killer, appointed by Tim Walz. The killer's wife worked for Tim Walz. The killer said Tim Walz ordered the murder, but he also said a lot of other crazy things. The guy clearly has a screw loose, but has anyone started to look back at this now in a little bit different light? Dark things, folks, dark things. So yeah, there's Minnesota, another wonderful bastion of lefty intelligentsia. And when you want to know why, we do some of this stuff, I'm going to save that one for another night, but I just think we're really at the point where you have to wonder how Minnesota's going to play out with everything going on. Alrighty. On our next topic for tonight, this one was actually brought to me by Miss Mary. Actually, Mel, I have to say that on behalf of the countless Americans with intellectual and developmental disabilities, they're very upset about being compared to Tim Walz. So, just for the record. Yeah. At Kansas State University, there was a shooting back on December 9th, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And this one again, Mary gave me this one. 2 students were shot, one was left dead, and they were shot by the father of 2 other students, a grown adult. Well, he was there on campus because his sons, including one of them, have been attacked twice. He went down to have a meeting with campus PD and campus security, whatever we're going to call them, and say, what the hell are you doing about the violence on campus, including armed violence? Some by people on campus, some by people who go to school, some by locals. This Kentucky State University. Sorry, Kansas. Well, they go down to this Kentucky State University. They try to talk to them. And he, as a father, and his wife was there too, could not get a decent answer from the powers that be at Kentucky State University. So he did the next most intelligent thing. Talked to his boys, and they decided they were all leaving. So they go to the young man's dorm for him to get his child's things out of the dorm and take them home. Because he said, his words, it became apparent that campus police and security could not keep his children safe. The kids had called him. They didn't want to be there. So this ain't dad overreacting. This is dad getting a call from his two boys who are athletes saying, this stuff down here, there's people with weapons, there's gangs, this is crazy. In the process of getting his child's things out of the room with an armed security standby, it gets better. 20 to 30 people show up, some of whom are armed, and they approach. They begin beating on one of his kids. They hit him. They assault the kids. Well, as one of the guys is on top of one of his kids, shots ring out, and one individual loses their life, another one gets wounded. Well, that was December 9th. Good news, folks. On December 23rd, the grand jury said, nope, we self-defense, no indictment, no nothing, release him. Now, it had to go to the grand jury, and he had to prove his innocence in this self-defense situation. But he got released. This is a big one. Now, they can represent to the grand jury if they get more information later. But by all rights, this gentleman, his name is Jacob Lee Bard, and I'm just going to pull him up here so we can get a better idea of what's going on. Mr. Bard was there as a father because his kids called him about the problems at the school. We sit there and you have to wonder what is going on when this happens at a university. And it's really, I think, a symptom of bigger stuff. This one's out of Fox News. Grand jury declines to indict Kentucky man in deadly Kentucky University shooting. Jacob Lee Bard's attorney said he acted in self-defense when a group of people gathered to attack his family on campus. A grand jury declined to indict the father of two Kentucky State University students who was charged with murder after an on-campus shooting left one student dead and another one critically injured. His defense attorney, Scott Danks, announced on Facebook the grand jury decided not to indict him for the December 9th shooting, and he's out of jail. Bard's attorneys have long maintained he was justified in shooting two people who were beating his son as 20 to 30 people gathered to attack his family. And we go through all this. Court records reviewed by WDKY TV shows 100,000 bail was posted. The outlet added the case against Bard is now closed. The bond is going to be refunded. This is Mr. Baird here. Mr. Baird, don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry, Jacob. It's not a white thing, black thing. It's not a my skin color, your skin color thing. If you look, this gentleman is significantly less palerized than I am. But you know what? He's a father who went to the school. Again, they note that the family decided to withdraw the two sons from the school after multiple armed violent incidents against them and other students in the days leading up to December 9th. If that campus is a free-for-all, be a Jacob Bard. Be a Jacob Bard. If you're hearing this from your kids, and again, this may be a parents talk to your kids thing, what's going on down there? I hate to say it, when I was visiting colleges, well, one of them I went and I visited with football, so I stayed over a couple days, and one I visited with hockey, so I stayed over a couple days. But others, I was there on a Saturday afternoon, 2:00, and everything was sunny and pretty and wonderful on campus. If I had a kid who was going to a college now, I'd want to scope it out on a Friday, Saturday night. I'd want to look at their Clary report records, their statistics for crime. I might even talk to the campus cops. I hate to have to think like this, but here's another shit show on campus where the campus PD, security, whatever, has, in my opinion, totally abdicated their responsibility. When the family and an officer reached the dormitory, a group of people in masks and hoods proceeded to rush out, violently attacking the family and others. Attorneys said during the attack, assailants beat the son's head against the pavement. And again, this is not like the son's a little, Steve Urkel dweeb. Both of his sons are like high-end baseball players. Yeah. Violent threats against one of Bard's sons began after he reported a burglary of his dorm room to campus police. Yeah, don't report that burglary. Yeah. Yeah, the students are now at an undisclosed location due to continued death threats. Yeah. Have we raised a generation of college kids who they go out and they go free-for-all wilding on campus? And to top it all off, yeah, I couldn't finish it without this one. The governor responds. Democrat Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky. I pray for a world where these things don't happen, and I'll keep trying to build the Kentucky that we don't see arguments ended in violence. Yeah, Governor. I'll try that again. I pray for a world where these things don't happen, and I'll keep trying to build Kentucky that we don't see arguments ended in violence. If that's not the statement of a eunuch, what is? I'm starting to think Andy Beshear, I'm not that familiar with him, but I'm starting to think maybe he crosses his legs kind of like Gavin Newsom does because of a lack of external genitalia. This is crazy. How about a statement from Governor Beshear? I'll be looking into this and what went on I'll have personnel look into this and what's gone on. The fact that this man should have to withdraw his sons from our school because they don't feel safe, and then he's attacked in doing so, there'll be an immediate investigation and we'll have some heads fired. I don't know anything about the head of campus PD, campus security at Kentucky State University. Personally, I can tell you that if he worked for me, I'd fire his ass last week. This is crazy. The father's there on December 9th because his kids had already been violently attacked. He decides they're so incompetent, he tries to remove his kids from the school, and he gets attacked, along with his students. Folks. Yeah. Oh, wait, I forgot. Nobody likes when policing is done to them. And maybe they can't expel certain kids. Maybe there's a reason. I don't know. Again, I'd be asking that head of campus security for Kentucky State. And again, you sort of see the through line here. If your campus cops aren't doing the job, do something about them, please. And every one of these schools, every campus PD, campus security, whatever you want to call it, depending on how it's set up at yours, they need to be looking into what they're doing. They really do. Yeah. And Mel, I saw your comment here earlier. I don't know if this is for the gentleman who stole the truck or for the gentleman who jumped the two kids at the college. Yeah, they all got an FAFO for the week, so it is what it is. Absolutely atrocious. And when you see it and you say, well, how did this go this way? How do we get to that point? Where it is acceptable. And again, this is not I know sometimes people feel, well, I just pick on certain entities or certain groups of people. No, this one is absolutely something that is, amazing. And yeah, I'll talk no action. Yeah, yeah, yep, the college. Now, I've got this one here, and this is actually a little bit of good news, although it starts off with a sad story. And this is out of Fox Nashville, and we have to, sort of give them a heads up here. They have recently put together a new law in Nashville, and this new law goes into effect first of the year. It is being touted as, and I quote, Savannah's Law. Now, who is Savannah? Well, Savannah Puckett was a county deputy in Tennessee, Robertson County. She was killed in 2022 by a significant other by the name of James Kahn. She dated a Kahn. She didn't show up for work, and they went to her house and they found her deceased, and her house had been burned, and pretty bad. Well, out of respect for Savannah Puckett and her memory, Tennessee has signed into Savannah's Law. Here's a picture of Savannah here, who lost her life at the hands of her significant other back sometime. This is going to create what they call a domestic violence registry. Anyone, male or female, who has got not one but 2 convictions for domestic violence will now have to register with the Tennessee Domestic Violence Registry. Now, it doesn't matter about other crimes, petty larcenies, assaults, this, that, and the other. But they've noticed a pattern of people who are domestic violence in one relationship. Okay, we don't know. That could be a he said, she said. But now this guy or this girl has got their second domestic violence conviction. They're now going on a statewide registry. Now, again, it's Savannah's Law in honor of Miss Savannah Puckett. And I bring this up because I think this is something where we really need to look at, because if you're not in Tennessee, you need to go ahead and get this out there to your governors, your statewide lawmakers, and everything else. It's awful that this happened to Savannah. It goes in first of the year. Tennessee will become the first state in the nation to launch a public domestic violence offender registry. Savannah's Law is named after Savannah Puckett, a deputy who was found shot to death inside her burning home in 2022. And again, this isn't just males, because I know females who can be, just as crazy. Trust me. But now, if we could do this, and again, the thing is, Mel says, I like it. Yeah, I do too. I'm 100% on board with it. This makes sense, folks. It really does. And from that standpoint, I've got to give Tennessee credit. We've gone from, again, we look tonight. We have Kentucky doing nothing to protect their students. Brown University completely abdicating any responsibility to maintain a safe campus. Tennessee, a red state, taking steps to do something to protect. And again, I'm sure there could be situations where someone has 2 convictions and they may get on it. They may not feel like it's fair and just. I get that. But they're doing something to protect their citizens from violent, bad stuff happening. I like it. Folks, if you're in a state, reach out to your representatives, your state house, your state, we've got elections coming up soon. Say, hey, I heard about this thing called Savannah's Law. They passed it in Tennessee to protect people from domestic violence. And again, it's not to protect women. It's not to protect men. It's to protect people from repeat violent. Okay, if they want to tweak it and go to every third, okay, it takes 3 shots, 3 strikes, and you're out. And you make a statewide registry that's publicly searchable. Yeah, here's his track record. Look at all his DV convictions. Would be nice. Would be nice, Mary. I don't think we'll get it that far. I mean, you can dream. But again, Savannah's Law out of Tennessee, definitely something I thought was worthwhile. Alrighty. Well, folks, that's about all I've got for tonight. It's been kind of a crazy week. I've been following a lot of stuff in the general news, and I may well be back tomorrow on RHT doing some stuff because, wow, there's a lot of news coming out. I can just say that every time you think that things have gotten halfway normal or halfway calm, you find stuff like this going on, and it's like, really? Did this happen? This was one I saw in my research that I thought was kind of cute. This one is this is Brown University, just to let you know who's in charge there. That's Chief Wiggum. Yeah, well, Chief Wiggum is currently on leave. Sorry, Chief. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cute. And I believe that was courtesy of the Bee, the Babylon Bee. Yeah. And we have a quick laugh here from King of the Hill on the latest state in things in Minnesota. Yeah. How about that one? Wow. Imagine that. Alrighty. Well, folks, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Please be smart, be safe. And like I said, you can go back, you can glance at that. It's about a 17-minute video talking about how the people living on the campus need to help the cops and help campus security and be their eyes and ears because somebody had to notice that car being there for 2 weeks. Well, it turns out they did. The cops just didn't care. Folks, it doesn't get any better. Alrighty. Y'all have a wonderful night, folks. I think I will leave you with a little bit of a chill song tonight because, like I said, it's been a wild week. Mary, I'm glad you're getting to go home tomorrow, so that'd be a good thing. Let's see here. And there we go. Folks, let me take a quick look and see if I can find anyone to raid tonight. I don't know if we can. I try to do what I can to share stuff out on the raids, but have not been doing too well recently on having people to receive my raids. So, let's see who we've got who's up tonight. Anyone live at the moment? Not really, unfortunately. We've been going a little bit earlier, so. Oh well. I guess I'll just leave you with a little bit of musical tribute. Folks, be smart. Good night.
Up and down, counting out, smiling through the taste of blood in my own mouth. I got bruises and broken bones, but they don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be do or dyer. I'll make it righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet. 'Cause I hit harder when I'm tired. I'm a fighter. I get back up. That's what I do. I didn't soldier on this far just to lose. So take your shot. Is that all you got? I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do-or-dyer. I'll make it righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet. 'Cause I hit harder when I'm tired. Yeah, I'm a fighter. Oh, no one can keep me down.